What's up? What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, aka the Geek with the Showdown breakdown. Where my turds at? Tuesday night special. We've got the Ravens at home taking on the Cowboys, or as some of you in chat are calling them, the Cowgirls. Man, that's fucked up, man. They lost their quarterback. It's a tough year. Harsh. 45 game total. Ravens home, 8.5-point favorites. There's a full expectation in this game. Okay, so what are we expecting going in? Let's start there. Game flows. The expectation is the Ravens going to smash these guys. The Dallas offense has not looked very good under Andy Dalton. But to make matters worse, this is a really good Ravens defense. Dallas is missing all kinds of players on the offensive line. It all adds up to the Ravens pretty much smashing them here. So that's the expectation. So as we're building tournament lineups, understand that that's what the field is expecting to happen. Because what do? We're trying not just to build for what we expect will happen, but what could happen. How are you trying to win a tournament? What could happen? So we've got the numbers. The first thing I wanted to take a look at, we've got a lot to cover. Both offenses are actually very, very predictable in a lot of ways. So, and there's some value on the slate that is so ridiculous that actually it's going to make salaries irrelevant, which has a lot of effect on the entirety of how you're going to construct lineups. So let's get into it real quick. The first thing I wanted to take a look at is the running back position for both teams. And I'm using the DFS Army prop finder tool to just check out all the various props on these various players. It's really important to use this tool and not to go to one sports book. They rarely have every prop on every player, and you could see different props across other ones too. I'll do Fanduel as well. Fanduel, the reason I always do Fanduel second is because it's much simpler, and there's more complexity and sort of strategy to DraftKings. Fanduel is just very simple, so we'll talk about it. But I want to talk about these running back plays first, just to show you. All right, so Zeke Elliott, 56 over under, not very high for Zeke Elliott. Understand what we're seeing here. Sort of a stud player showing fairly low 56-yard total, not very good. 13 above 13.5 rushing attempts is fine. Only 16 receiving yards. Expectation of 3 receptions. So not too great, and about a 50-50 shot at a touchdown. So not the best numbers. For Zeke, this is about as bad as you'll ever see. And for comparative purposes, this is like kind of numbers that you might see on a main slate for a mediocre running back like a Devin Singletary. That's similar to what you might get for like an RBBC back like that. For the Ravens, and I'm covering the running back position because I just think it's important on the slate. J.K. Dobbins appears to be the big dog lead back according to the bettors, with 55.5 yardage expectation. Not a ton of rushing attempts, around 13, which isn't great. Not a ton of receiving yards, not a ton of receptions, maybe 2, and about a 40-ish% chance of a touchdown. So a little bit worse than Zeke, but not that much considering the salary difference and the role difference. Interestingly, for the Ravens, Gus Edwards actually projects not too bad compared to Dobbins. He's coming in 35 yards, 8.5 attempts, and a little bit lower, maybe like a 20% shot at a touchdown. And it gets even worse for Mark Ingram. Ingram really does not appear like he's going to be involved at all, according to bettors. They give him a 15.5 yard projected total and an even lower shot at a touchdown, plus between 200 to 300. So we'll call that, 20, 30, 25 to 30%. So that covers the running back position. I want to take a look at both teams' offenses real quick, and we'll get a sense of what's going on here with this slate because here we go. We'll get a sense of what's going on with the slate because there is some incredible value specifically on the Ravens pass catcher side that we have to take a look at. And guys, what we're going to do then is really talk about who other than Lamar Jackson can we play at captain/MVP that we have an actual shot, because the very, very obvious approach is just play Lamar at captain. Salaries aren't a factor on this in the slate, which makes him even better. How is somebody going to pass Lamar? What are the scenarios in this game where somebody who isn't Lamar Jackson is the winning nut captain? That is going to be the key. Willie fucking Snead is out, Jason. He is not playing. So let's get into it real quick and understand what's going on the Ravens side, because I think this is the more projectable offense. And there's also a lot of salary savings here going on. So, number one, we've got Mark Andrews out this week. He will not play. He got the vid. All right. He's not going to be back. So, we don't have the tight end who normally was sucking up 20% of the targets. Let me say that again. 20% of the targets from the Ravens have been freed up. He's not playing. They're not going to go to fucking Luke Wilson, who sucks, right? He shouldn't get no 20% of the target share. So maybe he will, but he sucks. So I don't think Luke Wilson's going to get all 20% of those. Where are they going to go? Well, let's take a look at who else is playing for these guys as a pass catcher. We've got Des Bryant and Devin Duvernay. Now, on top of Marquise Brown. Now, Marquise Brown is the WR1. He finally had a big week, of course, under a RG3 regime last week, but he finally did have a good game. He got all the looks last week, and I don't know what that means. Him and Lamar Jackson have not been able to hook up, but that doesn't mean they won't be able to hook up here. You've got to get exposure to Marquise Brown, and he is one of our long shot, but not impossible, captain candidates for Draftkings. Not impossible. Not impossible. Now, the other two guys that are catching passes, and again, 20% of the targets freed up. They got to throw to somebody. Mark Andrews was a target hog. So the other two guys that are stepping in here, we've got Devin Duvernay, who's basically playing in the slot, and he's replacing Willie Snizzles. Willie Snead, not playing this game, got the vid, I think. But he ain't in this game no matter what. I don't know what. He got the Rona. I don't know. He's not in it. So Devin Duvernay, fine. 70% of targets last week. 76% snap count. That's very good. And the big one is the Des Bryant revenge game. And guys, I don't buy into revenge games. Des, increasing snap count, 60% last week. Got some targets, not a lot. Des Bryant is, I think, 1,000 on DraftKings. And hold on, let's open this thing up. Des is 1,000. There he is, 1,500. Okay, yeah, 1,000. He's 1K, and Duvernay 800. So these are pricing errors on the part of DraftKings. Let's be clear on what happened here. They fucked up. 1,800. So Des Bryant is in a legitimate revenge game narrative right now. And I don't normally buy into revenge game narratives. I think they're stupid most of the time. This time, I don't. I think there's something to it. So, I mean, if there was ever a time when you throw to a guy, you focus him, you include him in your game plan, it's Dez going up against the Cowboys. I mean, how do you not? So I'm going to buy into it a little bit. I also love that he's so cheap that buying into it isn't even the donkey move, because it's a donkey move not to play Dez. Now, I want to be clear, because I just showed you Duvernay and Des Bryant, both super cheap. What this is going to do to the slate as a whole. It, in a sense, skews everything in a way that we're not used to. Number one being, I believe, and I'm saying it right here, mark it down. What's the time on the video? We're 9 minutes and 40 seconds in. Record it. That the nuts lineup on the 500K lineup will leave quite a bit of salary on the table. Because what's going to happen is, the minute you put in Duvernay, or, let's say you start with Lamar and you put in Duvernay or Dez, right? At this point, you can't spend the salary. You can't get rid of it. I don't know what to do. So you're kind of like forced to, all right, well, Zeke is here. I'm going to play Zeke, and I'll play the quarterback and Amari. But the thing is, does this win? So we're going to force in Zeke Elliott, but Zeke Elliott might have a terrible day against the Ravens. He could put up a terrible, we've seen it before. So, like, you can afford him. Andy Dalton can have a terrible day. So, like, if you're even doing one of these guys, already your lineup's starting to look kind of skewed. And there's no way to spend it. Marquise Brown, I mean, you want to spend up for Dobbins. It's just easy to not spend the whole salary. So I believe that the winning lineup's going to leave at least 1,000 on the table. There's going to be some money left over. As we're building lineups, we have to understand that exists. That if you're playing those two guys in a lineup together, and I don't necessarily recommend playing Dez and Duvernay in the lineup together, but if you are, you're going to have to leave lots of salary on the table to make it unique. Yeah. I don't think Dez will be heavily owned as captain at all. So I don't think either of these guys are going to be heavy captains. But let's get into the captain spot here. So just to complete the breakdown of Baltimore, I mean, actually, I think we pretty much got it there. Covered all the wide receivers. Miles Boykin, his role has been diminishing week after week, but wouldn't it be something if it was Miles Boykin that came in with everybody on Duvernay? What I just want to say is these guys will not be low owned. Duvernay and Dez will not be low owned. As a matter of fact, let's see where we have them right now. I don't even know if I fully believe the projection, but yeah, see, they're showing only 13%. I don't even buy it. I think it'll be higher than that. Yeah, and Cowboys are missing O-line starters tonight. That's right. That's why I'm like, put the brakes on Dez. Not sure about him. Not a good matchup. Not a guy we'd be playing on a main slate in this matchup. All right, let's take a quick look at the Dallas side of this game. Obviously, Andy Dalton going to be back at the helm. Hasn't looked very, very good. Let's get a look at Andy here. I mean, he had his best game against me. He's just not looked very good. He's throwing a lot. And, Washington is a tough defense. Washington's a tough defense. Okay. Arizona, not easy. Giants, not, like going back a while. He did pretty well against Minnesota. Minnesota is not a team that's going to rush the passer. And now you get a pretty aggressive Baltimore defense. It doesn't bode well for Big Red here. Doesn't mean he can't have a good game. It just doesn't bode very well. It doesn't bode well for him looking good. My expectation going in is that Andy Dalton's going to look pretty bad. That the whole Dallas offense is going to look bad because they're going up against an elite defensive team. So they're going to just not look good, right? Dalton struggles all the time. It's not just prime time, all the time. So Dalton, the most likely scenario is that the Cowboys offense looks out of sorts, that the Ravens take a lead, they're running it down their throats. And that's the most likely. Could other crazy shit happen? Of course, this is NFL football, and the Giants just beat Seattle this weekend. Like, crazy shit happens every single. They just beat Seattle. So crazy shit happen. I don't agree that the Ravens don't have a pass rush. I believe they can blitz the passer and they'll be just fine, and they will be all over Dalton. So I'm not agreeing with this idea that the Ravens don't have a pass. I just don't agree with that. I think they do pressure the quarterback, and they're just a good defensive team. They haven't. I mean, early in the season there were 6-7 sacks in a game. They didn't do much the past few weeks, but I mean, they're not that far removed from 6-7 4-sack games. Giants ruined my parlay as well, guys. So, I was with you on that. I was with you on that. Yeah, you're saying, all right. So just to cover what you're saying again, Antoine, because I do want to address this, you're leaving guys vulnerable when you're blitz, but again, this is Andy Dalton. Like, he's not good under pressure, so you want to blitz him. And the Ravens have elite cornerbacks on their team. They have elite cornerback play, which is why they can rush the passer. I mean, they're fairly elite at the cornerback position. Oh, is Jimmy Smith out? There you go. All right, so that's good information. That's good. They still have Marlon Cheeto Humphreys, but if you're saying Jimmy Smith is out, so that opens things up. So this is where I was going with this. I think it's going to be difficult to run on the Ravens. I think the Cowboys are going to be down and going to be down early in this game. That's the expectation of how it would play out. So what happens then? Well, the team is behind and now they're throwing. So the pass catchers, we're trying to figure out who could potentially wind up as just a good play, wind maybe even as a captain play. Who can surpass Lamar Jackson? Right? Who are the players in this game that have a shot? And you know what? If you look at Lamar over the course of this year, he hasn't been that special at all. Most of his scores, 15, 18, 22, peaking out at 27. Those are nice numbers for a quarterback, but they're not special for a wide receiver on DraftKings. Can easily pass that. And even just looking at it, Amari Cooper, like how many times has he, put up 30 points or 25? He's done it a few times already this year. So there are definitely wide receivers on both sides of the football that we want to consider as our captain just to get off of some of the Lamar super chalk. That's where I'm going with this. So again, back to the Cowboys here. Cooper has been sort of hogging up the targets, but it feels like more than it's been. If you look at the actual target percentages, it's been pretty evenly spread out over the last few weeks, even with Gallup mixed in, Lamb, and Cooper. The difference is Cooper did a lot more with his targets last week. He had 8 targets. He got 26 fantasy points. You had CeeDee Lamb with 7 targets and only 7 fantasy points because most of his work is out of the slot. And oddly, last week, the same thing kind of happened with, where the hell is he? Oh, here we go. Yeah, Gallup. Same thing kind of happened with Gallup. Same 8 targets as Amari, but he only got 10 fantasy points. So what does that tell me? That tells me that, Amari might have popped last week, but that's far from a lock that it's going to be him. He's the they're all talented. These guys are all good. I don't want to knock any of them. I think Gallup is great, and I think CeeDee Lamb is spectacular, and Amari Cooper's a great player. So they're all very talented wide receivers. Any one of them can pop. The most likely is Amari Cooper because he's just the primary guy, the number one. But the reality is we don't know who Marlon Humphreys will be on. I don't think that having a good wide receiver or a good wide receiver score means that Andy Dalton will have a good score. And you could take a look at last week with what Andy Dalton didn't do. He had a pretty shitty ass 13 fantasy points, even though Amari Cooper put up 26. All right, so Antoine's coming spitting knowledge over here. Peters should be on Cooper. Plenty of experience torching him. Peters is susceptible to double moves. So you're saying that you think that Marlon Humphreys will be on the outside on Michael Gallup with CeeDee Lamb operating out of the slot. I mean, I don't know how we know that for sure. Yeah, no. See, you're missing. Let me tell you what Bobby Wow would do, Kaboom Big Ben. Bobby Wow would fade Lamar Jackson at the cap. He will have none of that. That's the Bobby Wow. As a matter of fact, I got the fucking Bobby Wow sheet, but he does the FanDuel sheet. You can't really fade that on FanDuel. Bobby Wow, his move would be, you know what? Everybody's going to play Lamar Jackson at the captain. That's what everybody's going to play. I'm fading that shit. That's what Bobby Wow would do. That's how he wins the million. You like Humphrey to be on Lamb. So you're saying, does Marlon Humphrey operate out of the slot? Is that a thing? Get me those numbers. See if you can verify that for me. That's important information. Marlon Humphreys is a stud. So I want to be not where he is. Yeah, man. I think a lot of people are thinking about fading Zeke here, man. All right, so we'll take a look at the ownerships in a second. So let me see if I missed anything here about the Cowboys. So we talk about Dalton, not the best play. I'm not in love with playing Dalton in any format. I just don't think he's going to score that much. But he's got floor, and he's probably a cash play. Quarterbacks always have the floor, But, if Dalton is doing something, his pass catchers are doing a lot more. So I'm just going to want those guys. Like if Dalton puts up 25, then 2 of the pass catchers from the Giants are going to smash. So that's what I want. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is important, man. Fucking Antoine spit knowledge. Humphreys likely to be on CD Lamb. Yeah, Cedric, man, you made it, bro. You made it. You made it on the sheet, but I don't want to play the turd song for Cedric, but it's kind of turd. A little turdly said. Short term turdly. Long term, potpourri. So here we go. Dalton Schultz gets some looks, going to need a touchdown to pay off. Tony Pollard is interesting. He's one of these guys that you want to kind of sprinkle in, because if Zeke gets phased out a little bit as the team falls behind, maybe Tony Pollard breaks one. Again, salaries don't really matter, so we're just looking for raw fantasy points on the slate. And again, with Zeke, I'm not in love with it. So let's jump over to the cheat sheet where we can get a look at some ownerships as well. And this is the DFS Up North cheat sheet for Draftkings that we have put together here. And we'll take a look at what he likes. So, DFS Up North, Josh, he is also a fader of chalk. And as you can see here, the captain ownership expectation for Lamar Jackson is 26%, flex ownership 54%, total ownership projection right in the 70%, so the 80% range. That sounds about right to me. He kind of likes fading it a little bit, going a little below the market on Lamar. I'm not on board team go under the market per se, but I don't think I want to go 100%. I think I kind of want to be in the 50% range. Ben is asking about shoving 2 Ravens running backs in the same lineup together. I don't know if I'd say it's good. Both of them are kind of mediocre. I think it can work in a tournament. But Dobbins is my preferred play. I'm not going to avoid it because the Ravens will lean on the run when they can. So, it's not something I'm going to make a rule against. People always want to know the rules. Don't make too many rules on these. Rules rule you out of wins. Let's avoid making too many rules. So Lamar Jackson, other names that are potential captains, and this is where the money's going to be made, guys. Who but Lamar can work as a captain? If you want to full fade Lamar Jackson, sack the fuck up and do it. Don't be scared. Just do it. Just do it. Lamar off the coast. Did he have the vid, or he just had, contact exposure? I don't know. Yeah, who knows? I don't know what the fuck. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. All right. Ravens defense, of course. Some people are going to want to play the Ravens defense here. I don't love playing a defense, but, there you go. Mari Cooper. So here are some names that can work. Who are the names that we could play a captain that aren't Lamar Jackson? One of the names I'm not playing is Andy Dalton. Fuck that. Let the 10% of people that are supposed to play Andy Dalton, let them play him. I'm not playing him. That's not where I'm going. I will have no anti-Dalton as my captain. And as a matter of fact, I love the fact that Dalton shows, when you look at Dalton, it's like, oh, he's projected for 8%. Fine by me. Let those 8% of lineups be dead. Right? I don't want to touch Dalton. Zeke Elliott, am I going to play him a captain? I don't think so. I'm going to just fade that shit. Now, what's the expectation here? 10%. And 41% of flex, 50% ownership on Zeke in a tough matchup. Team playing from behind. Guy hasn't done very well in these situations in the past. Doesn't mean he can't break a touchdown, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to avoid that because I like to play pass catchers at captain. I think they get there much faster than running backs, especially in a terrible matchup. So, again, I'm not saying Zeke can't get there. I'm not saying you have to do anything. I'm letting you know what I'm going to do. I'm not playing any Zeke at captain. Fuck that. Dalton is a no. Zeke is a no. Not for me. Who can we play? All right. Number 1, somebody mentioned it already. Amari Cooper. Why not? Antoine's telling us he's going to be on the opposite side of the field. He's not going to be covered by Marlon Humphreys. There's no special defender on him. And we know that the Cowboys are going to be throwing a lot. So somebody's got to catch the passes. Don't mess with the ownership catch on Showdowns. The ownership cap is exclusively for main slate NFL tournaments, and there'll be uses for it in NBA and other sports, but it's for main slates. Don't fuck with it here. Don't use it there. Do not use it. Don't use it. We haven't discovered a formula for it. Yeah, and 5-1, I think you'll see. I don't. You can't do 5-1. There's not enough players on the Ravens that score points. You could do some though. I just don't do all like that. So anyway, let's get back into this. Mari Cooper, sure, he can get there quickly because he's a pass catcher. I'm going to throw CeeDee Lamb to a lesser extent and Michael Gallup to a lesser extent on that list. They're all viable captain plays. Each one of them has a legitimate chance at being the highest scoring player on the slate. Pricing and salaries aside, all of them have a better than 0% chance of being the highest scorer on the slate. Can you not see Michael Gallup getting there? You know that last week, Marquise Brown got there on like 2 passes, and he was the highest scorer. So take a look at Marquise Brown. It's very important to just know our fallibility. He caught 4 passes, 18, or there he was, 18 and a half. And I think he was the highest scorer. So it's very quick for a pass catcher. One big play gets him to 12, 13 points. A second big play, you could be at 25 like nothing. So as much as it takes a running back a monster game to get to 25 points, a wide receiver could just do it on a broken play or two. Like it can happen. Cole Beasley last night. Hell yeah. Like it happens. And it happens pretty quick. We talked about Cole Beasley. Occasionally blowing up. Like literally, we talked about that. We talked about James Washington last night and how it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for James Washington to be in the nuts play. They go deep to him. And that happened in the game. How fucking awesome was that? We nailed that. So again, I feel like the same about any of these pass catchers for Dallas. Michael Gallup, he hasn't been doing anything, but he's a deep play guy, or he had been earlier in the season. He's not really playing that role right now, but he could go right back to it. Dalton could complete one deep pass, and all of a sudden, it's Michael Gallup smashing it open. So all these guys are low likelihood. Everybody's a lower likelihood than Lamar. Lamar is the obvious chalk, and all of these are plays off the chalk. Why am I on Deontay Johnson? That's the wrong sheet. So as you see here, CeeDee Lamb, Marquise Brown, we got to put him on the list. Now, some of you, if you want to go even deeper, might consider a Dez Bryant. I have a hard time thinking Dez Bryant is going to have that kind of a game. But, what if it's that Cinderella story of boy plays for team, boy gets dismissed, boy finds new team, boy plays old team, boy smashes old team. That old story. Yeah, I did talk about McKenzie. That's right. I mean, we nailed it last night. I mean, I don't know how to do any better than that breakdown was. But, I almost think this is likely, by the way, Antoine. I think this is I kind of almost expect this. This is what I'm expecting, like 5 catches, 60 yards, a touchdown. Dez could replace the tight end in this offense. Don't underestimate that. Dez is basically a tight end right now. That's who he is. Dez is a tight end right now. So the 20% of targets that were going to Mark Andrews, they can go to Dez. It could happen. Devin Duvernay, again, in the conversation. So what I want you to do as you're making your lineups tonight and you're setting up your captain roles on DraftKings specific is think about, all right, who that's not Lamar. We know Lamar is probably going to be the guy, right? If you had to place odds, give me like plus 120 that Lamar Jackson is the highest scoring player on the slate. I'll buy that. I give him better than 50% to be the highest scorer on the slate, on the whole slate. That still means there's like a greater than 50% chance that it's not him. So you have to account for those other scenarios. Playing the chalk in tournaments doesn't really, especially single game tournament, it doesn't really pay off that well. If you're going to play the chalk Lamar, again, that's where you want to leave some salary on the table, because if you're playing chalk Lamar and spending the full salary, you're basically making the same fucking lineup that's going to be repeated 300 times. There's no point in that lineup because even when you win, you lose. I took down a Fanduel tournament last week. I don't remember which one it was. It was an MMA one also last, and I fucking lost money. I was like, damn, first place, and I still lost money. That's because there was a million ties. Yeah, Sasha's saying Ravens defense. I think they're viable. I don't love playing defenses, but again, Dalton could crumble and fall apart and look completely terrible. There is a possibility that this game ends 27-3, and in that scenario, the onslaughts will work, which is why which is no, don't do that. I don't know what the fuck that was. Which is why, yeah, Antoine. Which is why you got to still play some 5-1, but maybe Ravens defense in those. That's a scenario. It's not super likely, but a scenario that Ravens defense just completely dominates. Cowboys offense can't do anything. They look like shit. In that scenario, yeah, that's right. They're going to be overowned, so you're not getting great leverage. But in that scenario, I would add in that it's very likely that the running backs from the Ravens are doing well. So, like in that type of a build, if the Ravens are completely decimated, somebody asked before about Gus Edwards and maybe J.K. Dobbins in a lineup together. That's where you might do that. Like that kind of a lineup that says, all right, what if the Ravens just completely and utterly destroy the Cowboys here? Offense looks terrible the whole game. Well, what's going to happen? Ravens defense will do well. Maybe the running backs from the Ravens will do well. And still, you could even still assume that an Amari Cooper will have an okay game, or one pass catcher from Dallas will catch enough passes. So somebody will. Dalton's going to throw 35 times. Somebody's going to catch passes. And it's probably only going to take 8s and 12s on this slate to be in the nuts. So you don't have to worry about that's why even Zeke is vulnerable. Part of the problem with this slate is even Zeke in a terrible matchup that you would never play him in is a viable play. So like the Donkeys are going to play Zeke, but the problem is even if he scores 13, he catches a couple of passes or just finds his way into the end zone. If he scores like 13, that might be enough to get you there because salary isn't an issue. So I'm probably going to fade Zeke personally, but just know that there are definite scenarios where he gets you there. And there's also a possibility that the Ravens defensively come out flat. They're going up against a shitty team. They come out flat and they don't do anything. And then, and they allow Dallas to sort of control the football a little bit. They don't tackle well. Yeah, there's a little bit of like what happened with the Steelers there. They've had some freaking drama with the Ravens and the COVID and all of that. And we saw the Steelers take a very unexpected loss. And we could see that. So when you're building your lives, play for that. And again, the way we're doing that is we don't have to be stupid about it. But again, play some Cooper captain, play some Lamb and or even Gallup captain. Doesn't all have to be onslaughts. And again, even if the Ravens do smash, there's a decent shot that those lineups work. So you want to build these lineups that can work no matter what happens. Let me see if there's anything here in the notes that we want to get too crazy with. Josh wanted to warn about Mark Ingram, that he has been seemingly being phased out of the offense a little bit. There was also words before the COVID thing from the coaching staff of the Ravens that they want to start to lean on Dobbins more. And we did see a little bit of more Dobbins work in the last game before he got the vid. So look for, again, Josh is definitely pushing that he prefers Dobbins, then Edwards, then Mark Ingram a distant third. So he wanted me to relay that to everybody. As you can see, he very much likes Michael Gallup. Very cheap. Again, I'm not worried about salaries. So almost take salary off your mind, but he got the same number of targets as everybody else did last week. And, he's going to be lower owned than those other guys. Just 20 looks like 22% ownership. Let's compare that to, I'm sure CeeDee Lamb, 31, and Amari Cooper is going to even be higher, 39. So you could see there's Bobby Clinks, the GOAT himself, getting unique on FanDuel. Doesn't require you to fade Lamar in the flex. I love pairing Dez and Duvernay together with him, and would even consider pairing Dobbins and Gus with Lamar to get silly. And yeah, you don't want to fade Lamar. You don't want to fade Lamar fully. Now, Bobby, I'm curious. Let's pop over to your sheet here, but I'm curious as to what you're doing in the captain. Are you just gonna? Do you go all in on Lamar in the captain? He is expected to only be 30. I think he's underowned. He's underowned at captain at 31. If that's what it is, that's underowned in my opinion. I'm not going to own any Dalton. I don't really like Zeke. Maybe J.K. Dobbins. So for me, I don't like Andy Dalton at all in MVP. I'm not going to play it. I normally like to play all the quarterbacks, but I just don't see this as some game where Dalton's going to smash. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll accept that, but I don't see that. So I think Dalton just sucks, and his maximum ceiling is about 18 points. And I just think there are other players that will outscore that. I will have 100%. So there he goes. He's going to have 100% Lamar. Now, how much in the captain though, and how much in the flex? Like, are you really mixing in? Are you really mixing in Zeke? The captain play is fucking Lamar, bro. I mean, you're asking who the play is. It's Lamar. It's always Lamar. Unless you're trying to win a tournament and take a long shot play. But I'm not going to tell you to take a long shot on Devin Duvernay at captain or MVP on fucking DraftKings. Like, I'm not going to. No, the play is Lamar. Dalton is not a captain for me at all. And we're on this is the FanDuel sheet. So we've shifted over. Look at the little symbol up top here. That's a FanDuel. So I've shifted over to FanDuel. Talking to Bobby Clinks over here. Yeah, I mean Bobby himself, who loves to fade the chalk, mostly Lamar. Mix in a little Zeke. He's going to mix in a little Zeke. Mix in a little bit of maybe J.K. Dobbins, who I'd be more interested in there. A little Dobbins, a little Zeke, but mostly Lamar. You can mix in some of these, Mari Cooper types. Is the number changing on me as I'm speaking here? Yeah. Or you because Bobby Wow said it. There we go. He just said it's Lamar, dude. Come on. It's always Lamar. It's Lamar Jackson. He's the best. He's the best MVP. He's the best MVP. So again, looking through the rest, Lamar, if you're not playing him on FanDuel at the MVP, you should play him in the flex. Again, I'm less on Zeke than you are, Bobby Wow. But Bobby Wow's usually right, so I'm all about what you're saying here. The salary, he hasn't played well. It's not a good matchup. Can he get a touchdown? Yes. I think it's because he's going to be low owned. Is that the intro? All right, let's read it. Dak going down hurt, but the Cowboys defense has been so bad. That said, if ownership projections are close, he's going to be way under-owned. The Ravens have a strong rush defense, but they will likely be without a few of their defensive starters. We know Zeke is going to get touches, and if Cowboys can keep the game competitive, he will be on one of the main reasons. Certainly not a cash-safe MVP pick, but I do like him here as GPP option. Solid flex in all formats. So there you go. There you go. He's going to be low owned enough that it's not even a donkey play. It's like maybe a donkey play to fade him. So there it is when the ownership changes. I like J.K. Dobbins a little bit cheaper. I think he'll get more touches, but it does look like, it's still a three-way split, so it's never a safe play. And Bobby's putting that in his notes here as well. And then, of course, Cooper, Brown, Lamb, the same group. One interesting thing about this game, these turds, we don't have to get too turdly in this one. You got Dez and Devin Duvernay. I like the kickers. You don't have to get too turdly in this one. You don't want to, again, sorry, Cedric, but we don't need your cousin Cedric Wilson too much. I mean, you want to get crazy in a lineup or two. We don't need, Miles Boykin outside of like a crazy lineup or two. So you could play those guys, and more so on I think more so on DraftKings than FanDuel, but just hoping for a miracle. Just hoping for a miracle. For the most part, though, we want to stick with the names that we like, and we want to stick with the players that are real and that are being used in these offenses. And again, keep in mind the Dez Bryant revenge narrative. I actually believe it. I rarely do. You'll never hear me talk about a revenge narrative. All right, let's hit up some of your questions. So who do I think has a more competitive edge? Ravens because they saw Andy Dalton twice, or Cowboys because Andy Dalton saw them twice? That's not even a question. Oh, boy. So here we go. Bobby, I agree with Josh and Geek. Your best bet for GP Contrarian DraftKings captain is probably Duvernay and Dez, but even there, he'll be rostering Lamar. And again, that's super contrarian. I'm down with Cooper there. I'm down with Marquise Brown there. I'm down with even Michael Gallup, long shots. I don't care. Pass catchers can get there really quickly. Of course, Vincent, I love first of all, I loved you as a wide receiver back in the day. You're on my dynasty team, so thank you for that. And also, Tucker's a great kicker. I always love him every week. He's the best kicker in the NFL. So there we have it, guys. Showdown breakdown. I haven't even got to fucking play the Hell Nah song. I haven't gotten to. All right, should we? I don't got a super turd. How about Luke Wilson, guys? Do we think Luke Wilson has a shot at the Nuts lineup? Let's take a look. Let's ask the turd tector.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Yeah, to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Listen.
Technically, Luke Wilson probably can catch a touchdown and get there, though. You don't need stacks, bro, at all. Matter of fact, everybody comes for the rules. We want to know the rules. Don't stack. Don't stack. You don't need to stack anything. It's weird. This is that kind of thing. Number one, Andy Dalton just not going to be an MVP or captain for me. If he was, though, I would stack him with 2, but he's not. So I don't need to worry about him. Lamar Jackson, I don't need to stack him. He's running around. He's doing his thing. He could spread the football around. I'm going to get wide receivers from his team anyway, so I don't absolutely need to stack him. But if I'm playing Lamar, you probably can make a rule Lamar with 1 pass catcher. Beyond that, you don't really need stacks. Lamar will be in like every lineup anyway, so he doesn't need to be stacked. If you played maybe Dobbins, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't see anything. Like if I was playing, I don't want to force Dobbins with Ravens defense. There's not too many stacks here to make. Just don't stack it. Don't worry about rules here. I don't know who Noah Brown is, man. I don't know who that is. Is he a player on one of these teams? He's not even on the turd list. No rules. That's what I'm saying, Joseph Holden. You don't need to make rules. They're no 2 defenses in a lineup together. Like your standard, no 2 defenses together. Maybe no 2 kickers on the same lineup, although that did win once this year. But you don't have to. You should not be making rules. Yeah, I mean, I prefer Ravens. I don't think Ingram is almost not playable. Oh, Noah Brown's the other guy that comes in after Cedric Wilson. Oh, okay. Yeah, there was a second. He mixes in. I mean, again, that's so turtly, but like, do I play a Noah Brown on a slate where the starting wide receivers for the other team are the same price, 800 and 1,000, Duvernay and Dez? Take a miracle. All right. You're right, John Gary. It went way too long. Let's call it. Good stuff, guys. Good luck tonight. Let's crush this.